Ladies and gentlemen, making people leave their career is one of the things that the Epilepsy Gangster loves to do most of all. Let me introduce you to a woman who was a TV news reporter and enjoyed doing it very much. But Epilepsy Gangster got in the way. She realized then that she was a communicator, not just a TV reporter. Following her surgery, she has reached notoriety and awards that she never would have imagined when she was a reporter. Also, I've got a mechanic who loved working on cars, but Epilepsy Gangster got in the way. He wound up finding that doing sales of cars and music made life far greater than it ever had been before. Thanks for joining us and welcome to Epilepsy Gangster.
Epilepsy is an invisible disability. It can strike at the most unexpected moments, like the most devious gangster. Epilepsy is a criminal. The Epilepsy Gangster steals money from people. It doesn't matter if he steals it from college funds, whether it's from retirement plans, and some of his victims have to choose between spending money for food or spending it on medicine. The Epilepsy Gangster robs people of relationships and job opportunities. But most diabolical of all, the Epilepsy Gangster kills. Like all criminals, the Epilepsy Gangster must be stopped. Watch Tim Ulmer and his gang you're meeting, who are committed to ending the crime spree of the Epilepsy Gangster.
Ladies and gentlemen, recently I've gotten acquainted with Stacia Kalinoski from Minneapolis. It's been fascinating because we both learned that our past is in TV journalism. TV journalism is very exciting, but it's also very, very stressful. And for all our years of advocacy, we were both surprised that neither of us has ever met another TV professional in the epileptic community. So we're very blessed to have you with the show today, Stacia.
Thanks for having me.
Please tell us how the Epilepsy Gangster entered your life.
Well, I was a college junior at the University of Minnesota. It was right at the start of cross-country season for me. And out of the blue, I had a tonic-clonic at my apartment, in the middle of the night. Woke my roommates up. It's called an ambulance, brought me to the university's medical center. And they did imaging, but they found, there's nothing wrong. So I went home. A couple weeks later, I had another one. Fell out of my bunk bed and I hit a sharp corner of my dresser on the way down. Had black and blue marks. But after that, those seizures stopped. Looking back though, my roommate said, we saw you kind of blinking out for 5 to 10 seconds at a time. And we didn't know at the time that those could be seizures. But after that, things stopped. Then in 2007, I moved out to Nebraska for my first job. I loved it. It was that adrenaline rush. It was stressful, like you talked about, but I really loved it. It was a great fit for me. And then about 2 years into the job, I woke up on the floor with injuries. So that whole thought came back, like, was that a seizure? But then I was fine.
What was it you loved about TV journalism?
I really love the aspect of shooting my own video and writing my stories and then editing. We consider that like a one-man band, and I love doing all of that on my own. And I love the creative aspect of storytelling.
I understand completely. That's what I do here. So Stacia, how did the Epilepsy Gangster muddle up your career?
So starting in Oregon, my friends were also my coworkers. So they knew about the seizures, but they were very supportive. And then I moved out to Michigan for my next job. And I was determined to keep it a secret because I didn't know anybody. And I was able to do that for a long time because my seizures only happened for the most part when I was sleep deprived. So I really focused on, okay, get enough sleep. But eventually my luck ran out, like I just think for a lot of people. And I had a seizure at work. And my seizures, it went from having like the tonic-clonics and the auras to turning into kind of these violent seizures. I would start screaming and waving my arms and kicking my feet. We later learned those were frontal lobe seizures, which makes sense because that impacts like your motor and everything. So had that seizure, was embarrassed, had another one a short while later. Unfortunately, I had another seizure a few months later, and that ended my career, which was devastating and embarrassing. But it was, in a way, a good thing because it made me really take control of my epilepsy. At that point, my doctor had brought up the idea of brain surgery, but we hadn't like seriously looked at it yet. We're like, let's do another video EEG and see how things are going. But that's what made me realize health has got to be priority.
How did you decide to counterattack on the Epilepsy Gangster and proceed with the surgery?
So I moved back to Minnesota. That was really where my support system was. Like if you don't have a career, you don't have money to stay in one spot. So I moved to Minnesota. I was referred to an epileptologist at a level 4 epilepsy surgery center. And she got me going right away. Let's do video EEG. Let's do the neuropsychology test. Let's do an MEG. And that all determined, okay, yes, your language and your speech is in your non-dominant lobe, which is like the first step to having surgery. So we did all the testing and then she brought me up to her office. She said, you are a candidate for brain surgery. And I was just like, yes. I said yes right away. My mom, she's like, you didn't even think it over. And I thought, why would anybody think it over? Like this was a chance for me for seizure freedom.
Did the surgery meet your hopes?
It did. It did. And I'm just so grateful. It totally stopped all the seizures. And I want to knock on wood every time I say that. But it stopped the seizures I was having, these big seizures, the small seizures, those auras. The only seizure I've had since is a metallic taste aura. And that comes around every month or so. It just keeps me kind of like, I don't know if you've experienced a seizure or an aura like that, but kind of stops in my track. It's this really gross taste. I take a big breath and eventually it goes away, but it always keeps me on edge. Like, is it going to spread? So I never had that type of aura before, but that's the one that I've had since.
Interesting. I've never even heard of that. I have heard of taste, but never heard a description of metallic.
Yeah, metallic taste. Tastes like pennies, if you want to think of it like that way.
Even though you got out of TV journalism, you have gone on to win an award for a TV production, correct?
Yes. So when I qualified for brain surgery in February in 2015 in my doctor's office, the first thought that came to my mind randomly was, I should do a documentary on this whole experience to educate people. And I thought back to a moment prior to surgery when I was at the gym and I had a seizure on a bike because the seizures would happen when I was exercising a lot of times, and started, waving my hands and screaming. And a guy came up to me after I was about to leave and said, you were screaming on the bike. Like, I was like, I know it was a seizure. I'm sorry if it scared you. And he said, you must have a multiple personality disorder. And I was so shocked that I didn't even really have a good response. I was just like, no, it's a seizure. And I walked out the door.
Was this man being malicious?
I think it was just somebody being really uneducated and not realizing that could have been a seizure. And that moment really stuck in my head when I thought about I should do a documentary and raise awareness. People, as we know, are used to tonic-clonics, but that was part of me wanting to do the documentary to show there are dozens and dozens of different types of seizures. And if we can just educate people, I think people, once they're more aware, will be more empathetic. At least that was my hope.
We have a sample to show our audience about Brainstorm. And I must warn you that there is flashing.
They feel like the split-second flash.
They have a sense of deja vu,
like I've been somewhere before.
Epilepsy is a brainstorm that causes people to do strange things they have zero control over.
Depending on where the bad circuit is, one seizure can look completely different from another.
He was standing by the front door, shrugging his shoulders.
I sliced my arm right open.
Brainwave activity tends to have this regular rhythm, and then all of a sudden we see a change, and there's the tapping.
And then he said, well, you must have a multiple personalities disorder.
I mean, I've been called, freak and everything else.
How you doing, Coach Kid?
It's not something you bring up, oh, hey, and by the way, I have epilepsy. I think people are fearful of it.
One time I was on the bike at a gym, and I suddenly started to get tunnel vision. I went out of it and just went black.
Very creative and illuminating. I was excited to see that you had Coach Jerry Kill in your production, because he was one of our guests on Gangster last season.
And he's great. He's so inspiring. And that's when I got the idea for the film. I said, who else could be in the film? And automatically I thought, Jerry Kill. First off, he was in Minnesota with me. I was a Gopher. He was the Gophers coach at the time. And he said yes right away. And then soon after that, I said, I also need a family with a kid, because we need to show this is what epilepsy can do to families with young children. And so he thought back to this little boy that he had met in Atlanta that came to one of his games. So I was connected to that boy, Billy Drash, and I went out to Atlanta to interview their family as well.
Please tell us where it's been shown and what awards you've received for it.
So I was fortunate that PBS picked it up. It first premiered here on Twin Cities PBS in the Twin Cities, and then it was distributed nationwide by PBS stations. And from there, I was nominated for an Emmy Award, which was great. I didn't win it, but just to be nominated and to see kind of the validation of my work, that was really awesome. It won some other filmmaking awards from there. And then it gave me opportunities to start speaking across the country and sharing my story.
Bravo, Stacia. Certainly my impression that epilepsy may have changed the direction of your career a little bit, but overall your love for communications is as strong as ever.
No, you're totally right. You know, once I left the TV world, I never thought, what else can I do? Go back to it. But obviously the film was the next stepping point. Speaking I was able to use the skills that I learned as a reporter, and then writing a book. I never thought I would write a memoir in my entire life, but it's interesting how epilepsy takes away part of your life and then brings up opportunities that you would never think of. Amen.
Well, is there a place where people can see Brainstorm now?
Sure. So it streams on a platform called Vimeo. You can rent it on Vimeo, and that link is on my website. It's brainstormdocumentary.com. And there you'll also find information when my memoir is released.
Okay, very good. Stacia, is there one last word of advice that you would like to leave for people with epilepsy?
Yes, I would say please strongly consider treatment options that your doctor might give you, whether it's surgery, whether it's getting a VNS, whether it's anything else. Just please consider the best option that can help you treat your epilepsy. For me, surgery was the easiest. It was the best decision of my life. But then I also want to acknowledge the people that don't qualify for surgery or don't qualify for anything else and have to continue this struggle. So that breaks my heart.
Well, Stacia, you're an incredible example for all of us to follow. My compliments to you, and wish you all the best with your publicity.
All right. Thank you, Tim. It was good to meet you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tim Ulmer. Between the last two seasons of Epilepsy Gangster, I had a wonderful milestone occur that was life-changing. I went 2 years without a seizure. All my life, since the age of 2, I've averaged a seizure every 3 weeks and probably been on over 30 medications. I have an epileptologist who keeps up on what's happening. And 2020, he put me on a new medication and the frequency of seizures lengthened. He told me that if I could go 2 years seizure-free, he'd even improve me driving again. Well, it turned out that this spring, I drove myself to church for the first time in 33 years. It was a dream come true. Make sure your epileptologist keeps you informed on what's new in treatments and medications.
At SK Life Science, time is turning the idea of a healthy world into treatments of the future, one patient at a time, knowing that every second counts, as every moment is priceless, bringing new options to patients with epilepsy. And the vision of a world where zero seizures is not just a hope for humanity, but a possibility to bring more to life.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but many guys always loved working on their cars. Steve Owens is one such guy, but epilepsy had a way of interfering like it does with many people's lives, and so he had to make a shift in his job. Steve, I'm glad you could join us here.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
First off, tell us, when did the Epilepsy Gangster come into your life?
Believe it or not, I was in my 20s, early 20s when it first happened. I was probably married about 2 or 3 years. And it showed up at 1 o'clock in the morning. Never knew it was coming. And the next thing I know, I was sitting in the hospital arguing with people. I wanted to go home. And so that's how it started out.
Tell us how that affected your life.
Well, I'll tell you what, at first I was working as an upholsterer for a furniture company. And got to the point where it's strenuous work. I was an upholsterer for leather side. And I had many seizures there. It really put a toll financially, physically, you name it, because they were changing medicines left and right, trying to figure out, hey, how are we going to get these seizures to subside or slow them down or whatever. Basically, I about went into a depression, believe it or not. Yeah, and so that's how all that got started right there. My wife worked for a guy who owned John Deere in my hometown. She was his private nanny. And he asked me, he said, Steve, you want to come work with me? And I said, yeah. I told him about my epilepsy. And he said, that's okay. And so he gave me a chance, and I got my master's through John Deere. I got it through the John Deere University. Yes, I do. Oh. So it's ASC certified, equal to like a car shop, but I'm a master tech through John Deere. It took me years because I did it from home, had to travel to go get it instead of doing it a 2-year program. And so there you go. And in my life at John Deere, epilepsy got very, very, very bad. And to the point of John Deere said to me, he said, hey, Steve, you're going to have to get this under control. I do everything from a push mower all the way to a 9620 tractor, which is a $500,000 tractor with the tractor and the 2 pans that goes with it. And they just didn't want a new entrance if I had a seizure. And so I took, they said, take 6 months off, see what you can do to get it fixed. Well, guess what happened, brother? I met a lady that had, goes to my church. She has a vagus nerve stimulator, and she has epilepsy, and she was very severely. And so I checked into it. My doctor advised me not to do it. He said, I don't think it works out that good. And I pushed it, and that's how I got it. And believe it or not, I went from 7 pills a day, now I'm doing 3 pills a day. And living a better life, if you know what I'm saying.
Terrific. Well, after that, eventually you started a garage with your brother-in-law?
So he said, this is what I'm doing. You want to be a part of it? And I said, it's time for a new change. And I moved to eastern North Carolina, 2.5 hours away from my hometown. And so basically, I'm telling you, it's been a ride. And so he said, you ever sold a car before? And I said, no. I helped him get the garage going. And then finally, what made my move come back up here was a 1.5 years ago, I had a major seizure. It hit fast. And that morning when I came in, I wasn't feeling good. And some friends of mine were out back, and I was talking to them. It was on a Saturday morning. And basically, in a nutshell, I felt it come in, and they caught me before I hit the ground.
Please tell us, how have your friends and coworkers felt about your epilepsy?
Well, I tell you what, when I had the massive seizure that I did about 1.5 years ago, it scared everybody. And to the point of, they knew I had a magnet and it stayed on my side. But when the seizure started, I actually had the magnet in my hand. I knew I was going to have to swipe it, but I never got to it before I fell over.
Vagus nerve stimulator?
Vagus nerve stimulator, yes, sir. And so it scared them so bad, they took off running to the front up here, and they grabbed our dealer tags. Here's our dealer tags, and here's the magnet right there. And so what they did is they just kept going, swiping.
Well, I give them an A+ for simple idea there and the ingeniousness of using license plate.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, I got 2 in this room that stays with me at all times to keep it in here.
Hey, tell us a little bit about how the Epilepsy Gangster has tried to beat you.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, epilepsy does this to me, and it's different from other people. Depression was my biggest thing. Depression. Got to the point where I could sleep 24 hours, because I felt like it was putting me down and all that. Until I got the system put into my chest and got my medication regulated down where I can actually handle things. And so I've learned in life now that, I know when I've had a bad week, I better be prepared because it could be a seizures. And what I usually do is make sure I go to bed early, stay off this caffeine. Caffeine's my worst enemy. I can keep going on and on. But at the same time, I made things different in my life. I got a son that's real big in music, and I try to support him with his music. And he's a youth minister. I call it a youth minister, musician. That's what I'm trying to say. And so basically, is with that being in his life, then I've actually brought my saxophone out, and I play a soprano sax. I've always been a piano player. I've always played piano in praise and worship team. And I asked my music minister at my church, I said, "Do you mind if I play saxophone?" And he about melted. He said, "I would love for you to." And so I probably hadn't played piano in about a year. I still played at the house. And so the first, second, and third, fourth week, I'm always playing saxophone at 2 different locations. Our church has 3 different locations. That's a great out for me. I love music. Music is great for the soul already. You already know that. And believe it or not, we are very highly involved with this called Ultimate Backyard Warriors. They come into our hometown and they'll stay a whole week here in our hometown. But on Sundays, they do a praise and worship set. I play piano with them. I've done their sound. I've done quite a few things with them. Just being involved with my family, because epilepsy was taking me away from my family. They saw it, and I knew it. And I said, I got to take control. And that's what I did, is take control instead of it taking control of me.
Bravo. Well, is there any special words of advice that you want to give other people in the epileptic community here?
Well, the one thing that's helped me out, believe it or not, is talking to people. Other people have epilepsy. I love talking. In my office right here, the conversations I have in this office while I'm trying to sell a car is unreal. Because from the time they get here, I go ride with them in a vehicle, all the way back here until the final piece of paperwork is signed. And I've ran into people who have epilepsy, who knows people with epilepsy. And I tell them about this VNS I have. It works for some, it may not work for others, but it works for me, it works for you. Depression, don't let depression get you down. It will do it in a heartbeat. It did me. My wife saw it, my family saw it, and then I had to make a choice. I had to take myself back, get in control, and that's what I did.
Well, very good, Steve. Thank you for sharing your insight on this. You got an incredible story.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, Steve, God bless you and your family's work, and you have a good day.
I appreciate it so much.
The Defeating Epilepsy Foundation is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping those battling epilepsy. We provide advocacy and educational services to those battling epilepsy at a global level. For more information about our projects and services, please visit our website at www.defeatingepilepsy.org or email us at info@defeatingepilepsy.org. Please like us on social media and follow us so you can see how we are making a difference. Thank you for your support, and together we will defeat epilepsy.
Hi, I am Natalie Beavers, and I am one of the many survivors living with epilepsy. My life has been filled with many ups and downs. It's just a part of life. I am proud of the person that I am becoming, and as I stand in the face of this relentless disorder called epilepsy, I want you all to know that I am me.
This NASCAR driver's future was gleaming. He was a champion in his teens, but like many people, epilepsy made him stop driving. Only several years after he started, a brain tumor had to be surgically removed and epileptic seizures followed. It was unsafe for him to continue driving, and he retired from behind the wheel. Here's an ironic twist to his story. He became the manager of a racing car team, but couldn't drive himself to work. He reinvented himself as a team owner of Live Fast Motorsports, a NASCAR Cup Series team. He took on the challenges of building and managing a competitive racing team. The transition appeared simple for him, only because he'd just applied his own racing experiences to guiding his drivers and seeing to his team's operational and financial success. He demonstrates resilience and adaptability at being a team owner and growing Live Fast Motorsports into a stable, respected organization within the NASCAR community. His journey from driver to successful businessman is an inspiring story of how setbacks can lead to new opportunities. By taking control of his career and finding a new role, he overcame epilepsy's challenges and found success in a different lane. His name is Matt Tift. I thank God for a second chance at love, a chance to get to know him.
Boo! Epilepsy Gangster, you trying to get away from me and my gang? It's not going to happen because we are going to beat you. And for the rest of you, may God bless you and be seizure free.